I mean, this is the fight that everybody wanted to see, and now I made it happen. So there's no excuse whatsoever. I mean, this fight here will be the biggest fight, the best fight that people can watch.
Unless you've been living under a rock for the past couple of weeks, you'll know by now that the super fight we've all been waiting for between Saul Canelo Alvarez and Gennady G Golovkin has finally been made.
So, am I to understand that the deal is done, that there will be a fight between you two in September of this year?
Yes, sir.
Not only is this contest probably the biggest fight that could be made in terms of viewing figures and fight purses, it's also a fight that has even the most hardcore boxing fans left clueless about the potential outcome. So we decided to list 10 reasons why both fighters will have the upper hand over one another. So, before you Triple G fans flip out in the comment section telling us why Canelo hasn't got a chance, stay tuned for our next video on why Triple G will win.
Let's go, let's do it, guys. Who is number one right now? Let's bring him, I show you.
One of the most famous quotes used in sports today is "Father Time is undefeated." And when it comes to boxing, it couldn't be more true.
Does that mean we won't see you fight again?
Yeah, most likely I'm not going to fight again. I'm not going to disrespect the sport anymore by losing to this caliber of fighters.
Over the years, we have seen many legends outstay their welcome in the ring. Whether it's for money or legacy is irrelevant. Many have tried and many have failed to conquer the young lion, despite how sharp they may look in the gym.
Right. Listen, at 44 years old, I'm in phenomenal shape. Nobody can't stop me. Nobody can't stop me. I'm 8-0 in my comeback. They won't even fight me. They're all running from me.
Fortunately for Golovkin, he's still only 35 and without a doubt has 3 or 4 big fights left in him at top level. But whether the old saying, "you can age overnight," will affect him in this fight is yet to be seen. A strange entrance to the list, but I think it's fair to say being the #1 boxer in Mexico comes with a certain amount of expectancy and crowd-pleasing patriotism. Previous legends like Julio Cesar Chavez and Juan Manuel Marquez will certainly tell you of the power of having a boxing nation behind you.
Arriba Mexico! Arriba Mexico!
Often giving you that extra boost in training when things are getting tough, and without a doubt, spurring you on fight night to leave the ring victorious and have your nation left jumping for joy.
Correr, entrenar y seguir ganando peleas. Muchas gracias a todos.
This gives me great motivation to get up in the morning, to keep running, to keep winning fights. Thank you, everyone.
Canelo is certainly one of the most famous men in Mexico, and at only 26, it's frightening to think about how famous he can become in the next 10 years if he keeps on winning.
A la hora de gritar se me enchina la piel cuando salgo al cuadrilátero. Motivación, ¿no?
One of the easiest ways to determine a victor in a fight is to glance over each fighter's resume to see how hard they've been tested and how they dealt with the opponent. It's obvious in this matchup Canelo is ahead in that department. His wins over Mosley, Trout, Cotto, Lara, and Chavez Jr. ranks him amongst the top 3 pound for pound in the world today. He has met many different styles in the ring and came out on top each time, except when he clashed against Floyd Mayweather back in 2013, where, despite contrary belief, made a pretty good account of himself, catching Floyd with some mean body shots throughout the contest, but ultimately came up short along with the 48 others that tried, so there's no disgrace there.
No, not at all. He's a strong competitor. He's a strong champion. It's nothing I never felt before after being in the sport over 20 years. But he's a tough competitor. He's a tough competitor.
Triple G, on the other hand, has made pretty easy work of his opponents throughout his career due to the substandard level of opposition, which is not really his fault considering the low caliber of quality in the middleweight division in recent years. And of course, he's been heavily avoided by top guys for a number of years. In all fairness, Golovkin has beat the #2 man in his division, but it was the manner of that victory that brings us to the next category. As they say in boxing, you're only as good as your last fight. And while I'm sure many of you would have seen the massacre last week in the Canelo vs. Chavez fight, Triple G is coming off a pretty controversial victory over Jacobs.
Who do you think won the fight?
I think I won the fight, and I think these fans support me on that decision. I think they all felt like I won the fight. I thought I won it by at least 2 rounds, minimum.
For the first time, we saw the seemingly invincible Golovkin lose multiple rounds as Jacob outboxed him on the back foot. Golovkin almost closed the show in round 4 when he scored the only knockdown in the contest, but similar to the Ward-Kovalev fight, Triple G failed to close the gap in the coming rounds, and pretty much labored himself to unanimous decision. But before you comment saying the comparison between Jacobs and Chavez is hardly fair, I completely acknowledge that, and would even pick Jacobs to beat Chavez despite the weight disadvantage. But the momentum heading into this fight is certainly with Canelo.
Question, Roy Jones, you've seen a lot of Canelo Alvarez.
Yes.
You ever seen him better than that?
Nope, never seen him no better than that. Never seen him no more focused than that. I'm very proud of him, and I still look forward to the big upcoming fight.
It's about time the boxing world stood up and commended this young Mexican on his blistering hand speed and combination punches. Every time we have seen Canelo face a boxer that wants to engage in combat, like Golovkin will, he has put a whole load of beating on them before the final bell comes. The Angulo, Kirkland, and Chavez fights stand out to me. What Canelo lacks in foot speed, he certainly makes up for in his hands. Triple G is far from slow when it comes to letting his hands go, often landing double hooks to the head and body with the same hand, a skill that anyone that is trained in boxing will tell you it's not something a slow fighter could do without leaving himself exposed. But regardless of that, Canelo is a clear +1 when it comes to letting his hands go.
Body, just like that, left hook to the body there, and another big left hook, knocks Kirkland into the ropes. Alvarez landing everything, straight right, straight right, straight right, left to the body.
One of the most effective punches in boxing is a counter shot, and one of the most effective boxers at doing it is Canelo.
Canelo Alvarez is one of the best counter punchers in the sport, and he put on his own clinic against Liam Smith. Look at Smith, he keeps his guards high, so Canelo can't get a straight shot up the middle. So Canelo lured Smith to the ropes, baiting him to let his hands go.
The key elements for being an effective counterpuncher is timing, speed, and most importantly, patience. Canelo's knockdown on Kirkland should make a good example of that here.
And coming back.
And tell him to there he is.
Uppercut, knocks Kirkland down, second knockdown of the fight.
That was that uppercut jab right up under the left jab, which is why he abandoned the jab. He wanted Kirkland to throw those type punches so that he could counter. Once again, Kirkland threw that left hand, and then it was the left hand that stuck it out like a jab, and then he countered it with the uppercut.
Triple G is undoubtedly one of the most accurate punchers in the sport, so trying to find the counterpunch can often be scarce. But he did show frailties in the Brook fight when he got caught overextending on occasions, and something you don't want to do when fighting Canelo is leave yourself open for a shot.
As well as taking away his energy and every...
Triple G has shown a mixed balance of styles in his fight so far. In the Lemieux fight, he boxed a perfect fight, avoiding all of Lemieux's wild swings, and punished him when the openings occurred. But in the Monroe fight, he even gloated about keeping his hands down on purpose to prove he couldn't be hurt, which, if there is any kids watching at home, I strongly advise you not to do or you might end up like Nate Campbell. Having Canelo ahead in the defense category is certainly a gray area. My problem being, his defensive role doesn't seem to come as natural to him as other fighters like Whitaker or Mayweather, for example. Canelo seems to turn the switch on when he feels like showboating a little bit, which is pleasing to the eye, but not really effective in terms of point scoring, in comparison to how Mayweather has done it to him.
Using the shoulder roll to prevent him from landing the right hand and then counters the left hook to the body. That's just brilliant boxing.
Regardless of that, Canelo is still a better defensive fighter than Triple G in my book. Gennady is no scrub either, but his style of defense would be more comparable to Mike Tyson by the way he walks forward with a little bob and weave, often catching numerous punches on his glove while looking for an opening. Honestly, trying to pick a ring general in this fight just gets more and more difficult every time I think about it.
Last week that he thought about the same weight, about 162. My gut feeling is Canelo will be 5, 6, 7, 8 pounds heavier. Does that shift any, give it Amir any advantage? Does that slow Canelo down even more, or is that what he fights at?
No, I think the weight's always going to be to an advantage to Canelo.
Canelo has one of those rare bodies that can put on 20 to 30 pounds overnight, giving him a massive advantage on fight night. I'm sure before you even finish watching this video, there will be a few comments below mentioning his weight issues and demands. #CatchNello. But I think we can all agree that the 160-pound middleweight limit seems like a perfect fit for him. It's no secret Canelo has been killing himself making the light middleweight limit for the past few years. He once had to drop the chance of fighting for a title because he demanded to fight at 1 pound above the limit. That's literally a few sips of water. But in Canelo's world, 1 pound of mass can be life and death. So fighting at 160 should be nice for him, and no doubt he'll still hydrate to a much heavier weight on fight night compared to Golovkin. Controversial, I know, but Canelo has been known to get brow-raising scorecards in his favor over the years. The Mayweather one was outrageous in many people's eyes, and his victory over Lara has always been disputed by many.
De la parte que ganó Canelo, creo que ese juego estaba vendido, no sé, estaba comprado.
Yeah. Whatever judge had it 9-3, I can't get, there's not words that can explain for him to have Canelo winning 9-3.
But sadly, it seems to have become a part of the sport for the judges to favor the A-side fighter in a close contest. Not saying there's any colluding going on. Often enough, the A-side fighter has the crowd behind him, cheering loudly every time an average punch is landed, which clearly affects the judges' decision-making during the round. Hopefully, both fighters can get a fair crack of the whip in this one, but if they don't, you can bet your ass it's going Canelo's way.
But if I did, I'd get the hell out of it. I'd get the hell out of it. I'm sick and tired of watching these fighters that put everything on the line. They get in the ring, they come out of the ring with less of themselves physically than they had when they went in. And this gets done to them by a bunch of cowards at ringside that never took a punch in their life. I'm sick of it.
The last part is more of a message to Triple G alone. You cannot start slow and get complacent in this fight. Canelo is usually a slow starter himself, so making up the points for the first few rounds is vital. I personally do not think there'll be any knockdowns in this fight, as both men have proven world-class chins. So if it goes the distance, you can't afford to have sleepy rounds like you did against Jacobs, or you'll lose a decision here. Which ultimately is going to be my final prediction, Canelo by unanimous decision. I expect the younger man to outwork Triple G using the 9 reasons I gave above to accomplish that. But I could be so wrong, which is why this is a great matchup for the ages.
Eyes closed. Most people don't know shit about boxing. Don't know nothing about boxing.
Be sure to subscribe if you're not already, as I'll be dropping 10 reasons why Triple G will win next.